Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rinkus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you. Everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
And whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Even better, all of our guests are local small business owners who you can actually talk to and work with. You can learn more about today's guest and connect with hundreds of other health and wellness professionals through our informative and easy-to-use directory at motherhoodalliance.com.
Before we get started, keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personal healthcare advice. Please consult your healthcare provider before making any changes based on the podcast content.
Thank you for joining us on this journey. Are you ready to help your family thrive? Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Andrea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 4-episode series with Dr. Mikhaila Riska. If her name sounds familiar, Dr. Mikhaila has been a well-known chiropractor in the Appleton area for almost 10 years now, and she's the owner of 920 Wellness Studio. But today, we're excited to introduce you to her new business, Fox Valley Functional Medicine, which just opened in April of 2025. At Fox Valley Functional Medicine, Dr. Mikhaila's goal is to help people get to the root causes of their health issues and not just manage symptoms. Her approach combines the best of functional, integrative, and conventional medicine to create truly personalized care plans that empower people to take charge of their well-being. Dr. Mikhaila is here today to share her insights on what true root cause healing looks like, why so many chronic issues are missed in conventional care, and how functional medicine can unlock the energy, clarity, and resilience we're all meant to have. Get ready, you're going to walk away from these conversations feeling inspired, informed, and ready to take your health into your own hands. Let's get started.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Motherhood Alliance podcast. We are on episode 3 with Dr. Mikhaila. Welcome back.
Thank you.
In this episode, we're going to dive more into hormone health, which is a huge part of our overall health and wellness. And also, we're going to get into perimenopause, which I'm very interested in particular as well. So let's start off with the Dutch test. Let's talk about the different kinds of ways that you as a functional medicine provider can help men and women unpack their hormone-related issues. So what is the Dutch test? Because I'm sure some people have heard of it, some people haven't. And how is it different than other types of hormone tests? And are there other kinds of hormone tests that are similar to the Dutch test?
Yeah, and I love that piece that you added, that men and women, right?
Yes.
Because so many people, I think, hormone testing is just for women. And it is really important for men to get their hormones checked too. Like a lot of men that are aging, their testosterone is really dropping rapidly. So it's awesome to see that there's opportunities for them to get their hormones checked. And just as equally as important of why do they have an estrogen dominance when they should have a testosterone dominance?
Oh, yeah.
Why is that happening? And what can we do to hopefully increase their T levels for sure? But yeah, the Dutch test is a hormone panel that we can run. There's different levels of it, if you will, depending on how deep we want to go with metabolites and seeing estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, cortisol levels. Cortisol is probably my favorite because I would say most moms that are chaos coordinators, including myself, have high cortisol. So it's just what are opportunities that we can really help decrease that, and also look at different reports on where is it at when you're waking, where is it at lunchtime, and decreasing at night. And maybe those reports are almost flipped, and how can we help their lifestyle and relationships, most importantly, sometimes change those levels. Absolutely.
So when you give somebody a Dutch test, is it like a one-time blood draw, or is it like you kind of alluded to, is it where it's kind of like an all-day sort of thing? How is it actually
collected?
Done? Yeah, collected.
Yeah, the Dutch test has a really good instruction, so we always give those to our patients too, but it does depend on where they're at in their cycling. So if they've got a shorter cycle versus a longer cycle, there's going to be collection times that are important too. So that's really specific depending on the patient. Or if a woman is not cycling anymore, there's going to be different collection times than somebody who's 18 and has a normal 28-day cycle. And I say that in parentheses, normal, right? Because a lot of people aren't. But usually it's closer to days, I believe, 19 to 21 that we're doing collection on. But again, that just depends. If somebody is every 23 days, that's going to be a lot different than somebody that isn't cycling and such too. But we get into those specifics depending on where they're at for their hormones and everything.
And so like with cortisol, like you say, it's in the morning, it should be at a different level than it is at night. And so is it taken throughout the day then too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I find
Yeah.
cortisol just so interesting because it should wake you up in the morning. You should wake up at the same time, like 6:03 is every time I wake up every morning. And it's crazy. I don't even set an alarm anymore, which is awesome. But then it should slowly taper off at night because it shouldn't be kind of that boost of energy to get you up in the morning. But I see a lot of times women complaining like, oh, I'm waking up a lot of times throughout the night to pee. And people will generally think, well, maybe it's a pelvic floor issue. And it definitely could be. I'm not discouraging that. But sometimes it's actually a cortisol response that's waking you in the middle of the night. So again, it's just all about looking at it in different lenses, that like little things could be pointing to a hormone imbalance that sometimes might jump down a different rabbit hole, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons or a lot of different indicators that someone would be taking a Dutch test for sure. What does it not touch on, like not explain or give you data on?
Well, maybe just to ask it a different way.
Yeah.
When people think about hormones, they primarily think of stress hormones and sex hormones.
Yeah.
So is that basically what it's testing for? Or because our bodies are full of hormones in many different ways. So what is it testing for? And then if you can think of anything that it's not testing for, then you could share that.
Yeah. And like I said before, there's different levels to it too. So if you want to do more of a cost-effective route, you can get just certain ones tested. My favorite, though, are for sure to be looking at like estrogen, estradiol, estrone, progesterone, testosterone. I mean, it's really good to be as comprehensive as we can be because they all have different pathways that convert to each other. So sometimes if you don't do the full package, you're kind of missing out certain links for those metabolites and what's happening. But again, I love to figure out like, why is this not converting to this hormone? And I don't need to get all nerdy on that right now, but it is just interesting of like, what is that missing link and how do we help support those levels? A lot of times I do see a lower progesterone in females, and different times of your cycle, those should be higher and lower. So a commonality, though, is really why are we seeing low progesterone, especially in fertile women? I mean, that has such a huge implication on pregnancy and carrying to term, making sure those are, supporting the womb and the health too. But even afterwards too, some women struggle with unwanted like chin hair, or they struggle with like what we call like the buffalo hump behind their neck and such too. That's more of a cortisol response. So there's different things that we can look at an outward appearance too, that we could see that there's maybe some hormones that aren't as balanced as the other as well.
Mm-hmm. What are some common, continuing what you just said, what are some other common symptoms that are showing that a woman, her hormones may be off?
Yeah, a lot of it is very mood-based, so that's always fun, right? The irritability, the mood swings. I mean, most of us could kind of see that when we're cycling women that we're coming up to our PMS time, right? But I did a continuing ed last year. Her name was Dr. Cindy for chiropractic care, and it was just so interesting. They were saying how if a woman is truly balanced in her hormones, you shouldn't know that you're about to get your period based on like those mood swings or those cravings or those typical PMS symptoms. You should really, as gross as it sounds, just wipe and see that, you've had your period. Obviously, most women are tracking when they're ovulating and in their luteal phase and everything like that. But beyond that, there shouldn't be emotional changes, I guess.
There shouldn't be significant ones, like where you're like blowing up on everything.
Right. What about like cramps or physical symptoms?
You shouldn't have to feel those either. That's a really good indication that there is something, going on. Could be low progesterone, changes in estrogen dominance, those types of things too. So figuring out that. But I thought that was such a good takeaway that if you have really good sex hormones and consistent cortisol and all those types of things, the only way that you should really know that you're cycling, obviously besides tracking it, is just wiping and seeing it.
Yeah, you just know it's there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So if you did a Dutch test and your results came back with either some hormones that are high or low, what does treatment look like?
Yeah, I love the report that they give. They give a ton of lifestyle recommendations first. So like decreasing UV or decreasing phone usage for sure right away in the morning. That really impacts us as women for sure. And as well as getting outside, like walking in the morning is really good for our circadian rhythm, but also balancing out our cortisol and other sex hormones for both the men and women. That like morning light is really good too. There's a couple different apps that we can put on patients' phones too that help tell us when the UV light is most significant, and based on our zip code and such too. So in Wisconsin, we barely get to see light besides June, July, and August almost, right? So it's important though to get those morning walks for sure to help balance that circadian rhythm, which then has great implications on our hormone health as well. So it's little lifestyle changes like that is included in the report, which I love that they're starting there instead of just jumping into, a medication or something like that. But it is good to touch on that hormone replacement is a thing, and so is compounding different creams. And I see that a lot more in my perimenopausal or menopausal women. And as chiropractors, we don't have prescription rights, which is definitely okay by me, but we are working with a nurse practitioner here in the Valley that is able to kind of do some referrals for us too, in case we have patients that are needing those different supports. So it's definitely needed in certain circumstances.
Absolutely.
And you mentioned perimenopause or menopause, so let's go there.
Mm-hmm.
What is normal for our hormones to be doing? And then, like our hormones are going to be decreasing, likely, and you can correct me on this if you want, as we get older. But then that also leads to symptoms, which nobody wants to deal with, and nobody has time for that, right? So is hormone replacement really kind of the route for women and men as they get older to keep them to be able to feel good and continue their lives the way that they want?
Not necessarily, but again, I really want to say that we are in support if it is needed, but we're always going to try least invasive first. But it also goes back to patient compliance for sure too. So if we're getting into the perimenopause, menopausal years, how do we support them with the hot flashes? How do we support them with the irritability? And conversely, how do we help their husbands too, who have maybe low libido, or low sex drive, low testosterone, and looking at all these different hormone levels as a couple too. That's what I think is really important, is sometimes looking at them as a couple together. And a good caveat to that as well is if one of the patients is maybe on a hormone replacement, say the wife is on a estrogen cream or he's on something, oftentimes we see the transference of the hormone imbalance. So it's really important to also keep that in perspective. We did a module on it in my functional medicine university studies on this, which I found so interesting. Like, why is the male estrogen keep increasing? Well, wife was on an estrogen replacement hormone therapy just by doing the creams and intimacy in bed or whatever, and just laying by each other. So it's like, how do we support him without interacting her? And so then that's obviously a whole puzzle piece of not only just looking at labs, but how do we also allow for that intimacy without, transference of hormones and making his estrogen go up when we don't
want that.
Yeah. Wow, that's really interesting. I wouldn't have thought about that.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's important for women to have almost like a baseline hormone test done before they hit perimenopause so they can kind of see where they were at ahead of time?
For sure. And I would echo, even in perimenopause and menopause, going back to Dr. Cindy and my continuing ed that I just had a couple months ago for chiropractic, it was so interesting too. You really shouldn't know that you're in perimenopause or menopause by hot flashes. That's a key indicator that, again, hormone imbalances are there. And that's not to shame people that they have those things, but let's help you live that quality lifestyle that you're not, just having to fan yourself or step out of the room or have these major influxes of hormones and such too. Let's support you in the best ways.
I can completely agree with that. I feel like once somebody gets to that point of, hot flashes, it's already not too late, but it's already you've been in this perimenopause, menopause scene for a while now, It's the same thing, when with moms too, if it's normal for you, it's a normal quote for us to pee our pants after kids, but it doesn't have to be. Just like with menopause, it might be normal, quote, for that, but for the hot flashes, but it doesn't have to be.
Right.
And I think you meant to say it's common.
Right.
For
it's
them
not
to have
quote.
leaking.
Yeah.
But it's not normal.
Right, yeah.
And I do want to circle back to something else that you had mentioned, Mikhaila. You talked about estrogen dominance. What is that?
Yeah, it's just having more estrogen, and it's just kind of dominating the other sex hormones. So it could definitely be from what you're eating. Often that's coming from a histamine overload or a mast cell activation. Say that 10 times. But it just, usually that comes back to like an environmental or food-based opportunity there. So like, let's get back to eating the more organics, get rid of the pesticides, go for the grass-fed meats, and for women especially, eating a lot of that red meat. I know there are vegetarians and vegans out there too, so looking at theirs, and their pathway is different, but in general, eating that more red meat that's grass-fed, eating the good eggs in the morning and such too, and eating breakfast. I mean, that is just another rabbit hole. I talk to so many women that don't eat breakfast, and it's so sad to me because we need to eat breakfast as women, and there's a lot of people that want to intermittent fast. So I tell them too, intermittent fast at night, like stop eating at 2 p.m. or something like that.
Right, yeah.
But eat breakfast. I know I'm going down a rabbit hole. You asked me about estrogen dominance. Now we're talking about intermittent fast.
That's a common FAQ. Yeah. So why do you say that? Why is it so important to eat breakfast right away?
Because that really balances our hormones in the morning for women. Because oftentimes you see them rushing out the door, those chaos coordinators that we have to be, right? And it's important, but we're getting 3 kids dressed in the morning, out the door by 7:30, and we're eating or drinking a cold cup of coffee, and that's all we've got on an empty stomach. So it's super important to have that breakfast, take your time, slow chew, eat good foods in the morning. But that's really where we get our basis of balancing those hormones, especially in the morning. That's so important for us to have a good morning routine as women, for sure.
And you've mentioned a couple of lifestyle opportunities that people could change, especially if their hormones came back a little bit out of whack. But what are some other tips that you have for just maintaining balanced and happy hormones in your everyday life?
Yeah, I would really tell women first, look at what's in your beauty cabinet, look at what's in your household cleaners. I think a lot of people talk about this, but it really is good to look at those individual ingredients, like what's in your deodorant, that aluminum, those BPAs, those phthalates, those, unwanted hormone disruptors and endocrine disruptors. That really is the basis of a lot of things. Perfume is just a no-go anymore. We can't do perfumes. And some people will be like, well, what do? I don't want to stink at home and I don't want to go to work and such. But we really recommend Rocasa is a big one that we recommend at our studio. They've got some great body care opportunities that are all very holistic and non-endocrine or hormone disrupting things. So really looking at deodorants, perfumes, what are you cleaning with? I recommend let's just do water, vinegar, and some essential oils. You can really clean a ton of stuff with that. Baking soda, and it's not as expensive. I mean, it's crazy how expensive cleaning supplies is. But I tell patients really be thorough, and it can be overwhelming too. You just got to start somewhere, but start looking at more lower tox opportunities for deodorants, body care. Not only for you, but your husband and your kiddos too, because it really affects everybody for sure.
Well, and we've talked about this in other, episodes too. It's one step at a time.
For sure.
Right? It doesn't mean oh my gosh, I got to change everything right now. If you're a cheapskate like me, I'm not going to chuck everything. Maybe something maybe things that I know are really horrible, but I might use it up and then move on.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
So it's just one step at a time.
And we meet people on that journey too, because we just live in a toxic world, and it can almost be just as toxic to be an extreme purist as well. That's a whole nother rabbit hole you can go down to. You also just have to have balance, have that 80-20. You're not going to eat grass-fed beef and zucchini every night. Your kids are probably going to have mac and cheese while they're running to t-ball practice and whatnot. We try to be realistic with people's lifestyles, but also give them opportunities to maybe change and not overburden and overschedule themselves too.
I love just tips that are easy to implement and are actually doable in our busy lives. So like Drea was saying, of just taking a look at one thing at a time, and as you throw something out, maybe replace it with something slightly better. And thank you for giving a brand recommendation too, because people don't have time for research. So it's like, if you as a professional have already done the research, that's just so much easier.
Yeah.
I do want to just ask one more question. We started out this episode talking about the Dutch test because I think that's what so many people have heard about in the past. What other types of hormone tests are there, and what are kind of the differences?
Yeah, at our clinic, we're always going to be very cost effective. So Dutch test is a fantastic test. We run it. We love it. We have also been looking into ZRT labs, and those are really nice too, because we just keep the collection samples collection kits at our studio, and they've got a lot of different opportunities for like a dried blood spot test, or we can also do like a urine sample for those hormone tests. We can do finger prick, we can do saliva testing. So I really like ZRT labs because they're so compatible with people's lifestyles. Like, we'll just hand them the kit and they can do them in the comfort of their home too, because that's also sometimes uncomfortable, like peeing on a stick inside of a clinic or watching you collect your saliva in front of a clinician. Like, let's just do that at home too. So it's nice that we can offer different tests, and there are different price points on it too. So we really like to be cost effective for patients, because most of this is out of pocket. And speaking on that too, we do give super bills as well. So my chiropractic business does take insurance, but functional medicine does not. So if we want to do some of these hormone panels, sometimes we can get coverage for insurance, but we're not going to, we don't have those contracts for insurance for functional medicine. So we'll give a patient a super bill or that invoice, and they can do the legwork to try to get some reimbursement at that point.
Well, you have options.
For sure.
You have options, which is great. So if somebody wants to get in contact with you, whether they have questions about exploring the different types of tests, or maybe they heard a couple of symptoms that they're having while we were discussing, and it raised a red flag for them and they just want to talk to you about it, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I would say calling our clinic. We can do a 10 to 15 minute free consultation. And I say that in air quotes just because it is more like baseline testing or questions like, can you help with this? Yes, it's not diagnostic in 10 minutes by any means. Or sending us an email would be great too.
Perfect. Thank you, Dr. Mikhaila.
Yes, thank you.
We have one more episode coming up, you guys. This is going to be one for everybody. We're going to be talking about gut health, and the symptoms that can arise from your gut being off are just unbelievable, the list. I mean, if you're talking about brain fog, irritability, migraines, bloating, anything related to the way that you're pooping or not pooping, like constipation, acid reflux, fatigue, brittle nails, under eye circles, sugar cravings, like so many things can be related to our gut health. So we're going to be diving into that one in our 4th episode. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.